Okay, guys, thank you very much. So, starting the recording, stop recording option, and beautiful. So, thank you everyone for joining. And this is our third in our series, PMP Refresher series. And I'm really happy that quite a lot of enthusiasm is there. Quite a few who are regularly attending, some of you are new. And as you already know, this is the how to say the third such series in this session in this series, and the topic is for today is on risk management strategy or risk response strategy. I'll put it that way. So how we run these sessions are usually like this. The idea has always been we start with say about half an hour of presentation on a topic and then another half an hour of question and answer. Unfortunately, the last two sessions the topics were so intense, say earned value management and making schedule via network diagrams, right? That I consumed almost, not almost, I consumed the entire time, and it was not just 1 hour, it was about 1.5 hours. I consumed the entire time basically discussing only about the topic. So what I thought was I would take a light topic this time, just a very small topic we will take, so that there is really some time for you guys to ask questions and we don't keep stretching uh, beyond the 1 hour time. So the topic what we have taken today, as I said, is risk response strategy. We will not discuss the entire risk management part of PMBOK, the knowledge area, risk management. But 1 minute, I'll also let people in who are trying to join. Okay, so risk response. So the basic assumption behind this, in PMBOK and in PMP exam, assumption is a very important part. So the basic assumption behind this is all of you guys are already preparing for PMP. Of course, this is also for people who are already PMP credential holders. So this is both for people who are trying to write the PMP exam soon and for people who already have PMP. So my assumption is you already have a decent enough understanding of what the whole stuff is about PMP examination, the PMBOK standard, and project management as the golden standard PMBOK defines. So I would not discuss on all the topics in a week. Whatever topic I take, I make certain basic assumptions. You know what the background is, so that I can straight away jump into the topic. That would be the idea. So these are more like snippets sessions. So today, when I say risk response strategy, you are free to, by the way, free to interrupt me, unmute yourself, and ask questions wherever you challenge me or contradict with me, or you want to share your own experience. Please feel free to unmute yourselves and uh, speak. It's perfectly okay. Uh, so, when you talk of risk response strategy, uh, the background is it is from risk management knowledge area. All of you are aware of what risk management is. It's one of the 10 knowledge areas in PMBOK, and there is quite a lot of things going behind risk management. In fact, I always love to say that the thing that differentiates a good project manager from a great project manager is how he or she does risk management. Just like quality is a mindset, safety is a mindset, risk management or risk is also a mindset. It's a culture. And from my experience, I have, by the way, more than 15 years of experience in multiple areas, and more than 10 years of it is purely from project management. I have been a PMP for almost 7 years now, and I'm a regular PMP trainer for multiple chapters like PMI's Kerala chapter, Chennai chapter, and also within my own organization, Bosch. I'm a program manager there. What I've seen in my experience, both in my line of work and also from people who come to these trainings and people whom I speak to in my various networks, risk management is something that's not completely understood. People do risk management. I want you to be honest when you try to answer this question. How many of us have two risk registers always in your projects? One of them is basically for the outside world that you dust out. It's like our wedding suit, right? For men, actually, you can understand this example. For our weddings, we wear a wedding suit or sherwani, for example, in some circles, or weddings, the coat and suit. How often do we wear this? Very rarely, right? We dust it off when we take it for some function here and there, but otherwise, we think actually it is very close to us because it symbolizes our wedding, and we love that. But the funny thing is, the more we love that wedding suit, the less we use. We keep it inside, dusted inside and neat. We never use it. So the risk registers that we have is more like our wedding suit, and that's where the problem is. So many of the people I have spoken to, they seem to use two different risk registers, and in the main risk register that they show to the outside world, in basically your management reviews with your customer or with your senior management, You have one version where everything is goody goody, right? Everything is green, everything is beautiful, and then you have a real risk register that you most of the time do not show to the outside world. You maintain it only for yourself, and in that you write some of the real serious risks that are going to hamper your project. Have you got this experience in the past that in that so-called hidden risk register you write some risks, like for example some of the senior team members are not really supporting you in your project, your manager is not supporting you in the project, and you really do not think some things can be delivered, not for the reason that you outwardly have stated in your main risk register, which is like lack of some inputs or something like that generally, but some serious things, that is an ego clash between you and your senior team members or between you and your manager. Some of the real reasons why the scope or schedule or the cost of the project would be impacted, and you never wanted to show to the outside world, and then when you file the lessons learned at the end of the project, these risks or lessons learned never come out. They stay in your local drive and get deleted, or just they stay with you forever. So you can type in the chat window also if you think yes, yes, Bhuvan, I recognize, I accept this is also the situation in our case. Maybe you can type in the chat window. I want to see how much of this is really true. Can you? Because I just wanted to understand if I am in sync actually with you all.
Yeah, Bhuvan, I think most things that happened, like if you see in our project,
Mm-hmm.
mainly whichever is impacting the budget or cost,
Mm-hmm.
that would be showed to customer. We keep internally tracking within our PMO team, and then whichever is going to impact the schedule which is the customer, which will be exposed to customer perspective.
True.
Those have been tracked separately, so we won't be exposing customer part
You,
of.
you, you don't do that, right?
Yeah, we won't. Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
many of the times this risk register is so safe, and in fact how great it would be, you'd have also felt many times, if only I was able to show this risk register to the outside world, I can get some answers and support faster. And so that is the problem with risk management. That's why I keep saying risk management, how well you do risk management is what differentiates you as a great project manager from just another good project manager. So in this, I would not go through the entire shebang of risk management, as PMBOK states. It suffices to say that risk, all of you know, is any uncertain event. Number one, that all of us know. What we really do not pay attention to is the next part in the definition of risk. Any uncertain event, okay, Bhuvan, don't bore me. What next? If it occurs. How many of us have seen this part, if it occurs? Very rarely. A risk is not just about any uncertain events. If you see in risk registers, we see two extremes. One extreme, hundreds of risks written, one extreme, almost no risks written. And most of the time, you have to get through lots of risks before seeing the real risk, because we write everything. For example, you say one of my team members can go on sick leave exactly at the time of delivery. That's one risk. My key team members may resign. Do these risks really help us actually in doing something? No. Imagine a situation you write. For example, I'm saying Rajesh in this call. I'll say, instead of saying my key team member will go on leave, instead if you write this risk statement as Rajesh, who is the senior architect in the project, may go on planned or unplanned family leave because of his family reasons on the time of the release of this module name, and that will impact, say, review of the final tested deliverables. Imagine this is the most specific way of writing the risk. So the point here is not quantity, writing so many risks. In fact, the more meaningful risks you write in a project, the better you are as a project manager. It's not just writing simply too many risk statements. Rather, writing actionable risk statements with which either you or someone else who sees this will be able to do something meaningful. So any risk statement is meaningless unless you can be very specific, it's actionable, there's a person responsible who can work on the actions towards that, time bound, crisp. So all these things comprise a good, well written, well articulated risk statement, and that's what risk statements miss. So a risk is any uncertain event. If it occurs, that means there are many risks that you think as risks that may or may not occur. Imagine your project ends in June of the year. There is a big festival holiday coming up in August. What is the use you write that during the puja holidays in August or September, many people go on leave? Because that risk will never occur during the duration of your project. So a risk is an uncertain event, I repeat again, if it occurs and if it has an impact on the outcome of your project. Outcome means your scope, schedule, or cost. And it could be a positive income, it could be a negative income. So when you talk of positive and negative, right, it's like yin and yang. There's both positive and negative aspects to the project. So negative risks, what is it called? I think all of you are PMPs. What is negative risk called?
Threats.
Threat is a threat.
And a positive risk is a
Opportunity.
opportunity. Beautiful. All of us are very good in saying this. But many of us, when we talk of risk, we think only negatively and we try to protect ourselves, which is the primary reason why we try to hide some risks. And very rarely we look at positive risks or opportunities. So in this session, the topic risk management, say strategy, for example, I'm going to discuss only some case studies. The risk responses for negative risks and positive risks, right? Threats and opportunities. I'm going to discuss some real examples of what this responses could be for negative. We all know the names of the negative risks and some positive risks, so that the idea by discussing these responses is to drill inside our heads that risk need not be negative, and also to give you an idea that how, instead of just saying risk means positive also, opportunity also, how we really are able to identify a positive risk in a way that you are not just giving lip service, rather you are also taking some concrete steps towards capturing an opportunity and ensuring that opportunity can be grabbed. So this is the main intention. So we all know that risk, for example, I will share my screen now, just a minute. I hope okay. All right, so now you should be able to see my screen. So could you guys see the screen? Hopefully my screen is shared.
Yes.
Beautiful. So we have basically 7 process and risk management, right, in the knowledge area. Of course, like any other area, it covers planning, executing, monitoring, and controlling, other than initiating and closing. So you have a planned risk management, in which you plan the entire process, how you are going to do risk management for your particular project. Then you are going to identify the risks from various sources that you have categorized and listed in your plan, risk management plan. Then you do a risk analysis. I hope you remember risk analysis basically means it is a step how you are going to prioritize the project, prioritize the risks based on various parameters. In qualitative risk analysis, you are going to use qualitative parameters like probability and impact, the two most important parameters how you will categorize or prioritize a risk. And there are some other factors, but in quantitative risk analysis, you are going to give a number to it. That's it. And once you have done the risk analysis, the next step is to take steps how you will attack, how you will address them. And first step in addressing is to plan what response you will give. That is where the risk management strategy comes in. So you will plan the responses, then you will implement them, and finally you will monitor or control them. So this is the entire process of risk management. And now when you talk of, for example, the risk responses, so this is what we are talking of. So there are, just a moment, I guess I will share a separate window so that's easier. Just give me a moment. So I will reshare my screen. Just give me a moment. I'm just resharing this window. Okay, so I guess you should be able to see this screen, right? So we have positive risks, negative risks. So basically when you talk of risk responses, many of you would have memorized this in your for your PMBOK examination, even if you are already a PMP, right? Now you just remember the high level things, avoid, exploit, transfer, how to basically remember them. So this session we will see how easily to remember with some examples. So first thing is basically how you respond to a risk, negative or positive risk, is based on what exactly you are responding to. So you can respond based on the cause. You can do something about the cause of the risk, because whenever you talk of a risk statement, there are two things. One is the cause, one is the impact. So cause of the risk, if you address, that is one kind of risk response. Second is you can address the probability or impact. So because P and I are the important things based on which you prioritize a risk, right? So you can address the probability or impact. Say you can increase the probability or impact of a positive risk, or you can reduce the probability or impact of a negative risk. Third category is you can simply move it to someone else. Either you move it to someone else, like dumping it on someone else, or you partner with someone else. This is called outsourcing. So this is the third category. So there are three major categories, as I said. You address the cost, you address the probability or impact, and you transfer it or you outsource it to someone else. And then of course there is the fourth thing, which is common. Basically you accept. You will see what accepting means. And in PMBOK 6 it introduced a new response called escalating risk response. So let's see some examples. So addressing the cost, on each of these three categories or these three approaches, they have a counterpart both on the negative risk side and the positive risk side. So examples. So if you are going to address the cause of a negative risk, it's called avoiding. So in avoid, what you do, you are eliminating the cause completely. You are making sure you don't even have to take some steps. Only if that cause is there, I will have to spend some time. So let me eliminate. And eliminating is not just removing it. Sometimes it's also replanning. You guys remember in schedule management, there was a topic called fast tracking. What is fast tracking? Can anyone say what is a fast tracking technique in schedule management?
We can do multiple tasks.
Exactly. You are
Preponing.
preponing. Yes, it could also sometimes postponing also could help sometimes. So redefining the sequence of the activities compared to what you originally planned. That's called fast tracking. And also there is another term in cost management. This is called funding requirements, funding limit reconciliation. Can someone tell me what the difference is between budget and funding limit? Let's see how much you remember the concepts from cost management.
So funding limit, we release the amount based on the project how it goes. Like
Yes.
step by step release the budget.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful.
Uh, Plan for the complete project.
Yeah,
Uh,
exactly. Budget is,
Actually, as per my knowledge,
yeah,
uh, funding is the budget plus risk management. That is,
not exactly.
whatever the budget was taken plus.
Uh, no, no. Reserve is a different. What you are talking about is about management reserve. So funding limit, basically, you
Yes.
see budget you agreed for $1 million project, and it's running for say 2 years. No one releases the budget immediately, right? Based on the deliverables, you finish requirements phase. I will release $200,000. You finish the implementation phase. I will release another 500 or 600K. You finish the testing, another 200K. You deploy and let me see it deployed at my location. I will release the last 100K 2 months after the deployment is done. So this is funding limit reconciliation, or it could be based on deliverables. Like I said, now it could also be based on time. Every quarter only so much budget, even though $1 million are agreed, every quarter or every half year I will release only so much. It could be because of the basic thing, nobody wants to give the entire money unless they see the work outputs. It could also be because of cash flow. Cash flow is inflow and outflow. Though companies agree their budget for $1 million, no one has so much cash reserves. So basically they will release it in steps. So funding limit is basically the time phased releasing of the agreed budget over the entire life cycle of the budget. So sometimes you will have a reason for it. You have a risk. I have a risk that I need to do a package in 1 quarter where the budget may overflow. Imagine I need to use an expert, but that expert costs so much money, that money I will not get it during this phase. It will come only in the next quarter. Very simple. You redefine, you resequence the package, you move it to the next quarter. So instead of doing the work in this quarter, you move. That means technically for this quarter, you are eliminating or removing the work package completely. Otherwise, you'll be seeing where will my money come from. You will be running behind with a shopping cart, with a begging bowl. You'll be running to the management of the customer to release the funds a little early, and you have lots of work to do as a project manager. So it is better that your time be spent on delivering that rather than looking at where your budget will come if you have the option of not even fighting for that budget. So you eliminate that work package that will make you cross the funding limit for that quarter, and you will move it to the next quarter. So this is one way of avoiding or eliminating the cost. Another thing, you have a team member who is creating negative vibes, and you have already given the option, lots of conflict resolution techniques you would have seen. For example, the best conflict resolution technique is confrontation. You are facing the issue up front, and you have tried to gather all the data. You have looked at your project management plan, which is what you have created yourself, that's your bible, and you have seen all the strategies, you've done everything, you try to address, it's not working, simply remove the person from your project. So this is avoiding or eliminating the cost of the risk. Sometimes you have to do that. Sorry, it's a hard thing, you have to do that. Conversely, on the positive side, you have exploit. You are trying to enable the cost. So when you are enabling the cost, for example, it means that you are making the cost happen. Imagine, for example, you have some opportunity that you want to grab. Imagine your project has a customer in USA, and they are looking to give more work packages, more new projects to you, to your organization or to your team. But you are not sure if they really know your capability. They have worked with you so long, they know about you only within the context of this project. Imagine you are working in a data science project, and you are already working for them in R programming language and everything. They want to give another work package where Python is needed, but you have never worked with them for Python, but you know your team has this capability. And how will you make them know that your team can do this, so that you can exploit this opportunity? There is a potential opportunity that they may give you this project, but you want to make sure that the opportunity really happens. This is enabling the cause. How will you do that? You will exploit. Example, you have lots of budget, your CPI is really very high, very higher than 1. That means you have saved enough money, and you have an on-site budget planned also. You already have the budget defined for on-site, you have just not utilized it. You will be placing an on-site person in your project with the customer, say in USA. Now you will place such a person who is not only technically good, who is also politically savvy, who also has good communication skills, who is very receptive, who can talk, make good coffee table discussions, coffee machine discussions, and slowly influence your customer and make the customer understand, hey, I have a big team in India who has Python language capability also, so can you give the project? So this is why you are influencing the customer. So you have the opportunity, but if you don't send the person on site, your customer will never know what your capability is. So you are placing your associate on site. So this is exploiting an opportunity which is there to be taken, and it will not be taken if you don't exploit. Also, another thing, in your projects, very tricky and difficult work packages, to whom do you give? To the experienced ones or to the less experienced ones? Whom do you give that?
Experience one.
Experienced ones. Do you even think twice before that? You don't think twice. You just automatically, whenever you are planning a work, planning the project, planning the work packages, automatically you say, okay, this package this person will do. For example, this other person will do, they are experienced. And this is risk management. Unconsciously we do it, but this technique is called exploiting. You have experienced people in the team, you have tough work packages which are better executed by these people, you just exploit the opportunity, you are just enabling the cause so that you can grab the opportunity. So this is another example of exploiting, giving the right work to the right people. So this is one. Next you have the outsourcing option. In outsourcing, you are transferring the risk if it's a negative one, insurance. So what you do, this again unconsciously we do without knowing. What is the meaning of an insurance? God forbid, God bless us with all the health, but if something happens to us, or if there is a, for example, medical situation, if you don't insure yourself, you will be spending a lot of money. Imagine you are going to spend 10 lakhs for your medical treatment or for the treatment of your loved ones. Imagine you are paying every year, say 1000 or 5000 rupees or something as a premium for some insurance. Imagine even after 5 years, you only paid 25,000 rupees, or maximum 1 lakh you would have paid over many years. And if something happens to you when the insurance policy is in place, see, I am explaining this insurance concept. Bhuvan, what are you even explaining to us? We know what insurance is. I am intentionally explaining this because you want to understand how the risk is actually transferred. If you had taken the insurance policy and it is still in force, Imagine if you are not having the policy, you would have to bear 10 lakhs of expenses yourself. By just paying 1 lakh so far, you are transferring this responsibility of paying the 10 lakhs to your insurance company. So basically you are outsourcing. We all have been having insurance for many years, but have you ever thought in this direction? How exactly is the risk transferred? Instead of you paying 10 lakhs, you are transferring that responsibility to the insurance company, who you have not paid them 10 lakhs so far, but they will have to pay this 10 lakhs. So this is called transferring responsibility. And another kind of thing, procurement management, you would have seen. Have you seen fixed price contract? FFP, firm fixed price, for example, right? That is example of a risk. Who carries the most risk in a fixed price contract? Buyer or the seller?
Seller.
Seller. You as a project manager selling to a customer some product or service or result, and the risk is high because if your costs exceed, then you have to bear them, right? So that is exactly a way how you can transfer the risk from the seller buyer. You are transferring to the seller. In procurement management, if you are outsourcing, you are transferring the risk. Still the responsibility is with you. You as a project manager, your head is on the platter and you are responsible for the deliveries that come from your external vendor. But you don't have to take care of the leaves, you don't have to take care of recruiting, hiring, all these things for the vendor. You just black box activity and give it to him. So technically you are transferring the risk to your seller. And conversely, on the positive side, there is share. Sharing is basically all about partnership. For example, the same thing, you are doing a database enhancement project for your project, and suddenly you find, hey, compared to the past projects, now I want to do a distributed database that also has high level of security, and a distributed ledger. I want to do all these things. Blockchain. But your company has never done blockchain. You have 2 or 3 options. One is to hire people from outside who will have blockchain experience. Second, train your team members in doing blockchain. But is it your core business? Your core business is something else. So your investment is very heavy. But you also need, 1 minute, I think somebody joined. I was trying to join, yes. So you also need this work to be done. So what you do, you share, you partner with someone else, a company that is specializing in blockchain. So that company also gets an opportunity, it gets a project, you also get the work done without too much of investment. And imagine you are not going to do too many blockchain projects. Why will you even hire someone, or why will you even train your team members? You concentrate on your core business, right? Core product. So you are partnering with someone else. So this is the sharing option for outsourcing or for positive risk response. Then you come to the third category, which is probability and impact you are addressing. Either the probability or impact. On the negative risk, which is a threat, you have the option called mitigate. Mitigate means reduce. Basically, you are reducing the probability or impact of a negative risk or increasing the P or I of a positive risk. The best examples, for example, prototype. Some of you may be from the construction industry, because I am giving all IT examples. Imagine all of us have either built houses, or we know some other people who have built houses in the past, right? All of us know people who have built houses. Imagine you are scouting, you want to go and buy a house or build a house or something like that. You go to a contractor. What does the contractor show you how the house looks like? Does he show you a completed property? Sometimes yes, occupied property or complete property. But what does the contractor show you most of the time? The building company, the real estate company?
Model house.
Model house. It could be a small scale hard model or a 3D simulation, right, in software. What is that? It's a prototype. So why? Now all of us know this. Again, Bhuvan, how does it relate to mitigate? Very simple. Imagine if, to show you, he has to build a complete house, and then say, for example, the wife asks, hey, kitchen is really nice, I want to see how this kitchen will appear if you put these shelves on this side, if the shelf is a different color or a different design. Or you probably will be asking, for my kids outside the lawn, how about the lawn is placed in this dimension? Can they change it immediately if it's a full model? They can't. So what are they doing? They are showing a small scale model or a prototype on software. What are they doing? They are reducing the costs. Imagine just rebuilding a small model and showing you, or redesigning the 3D model, software model, and showing you, does not cost much compared to redefining and redesigning the entire big full scale model. So they are reducing the impact of change, the risk, they are reducing the impact of the risk that they have to redesign something. This is a prototype. What is another most famous type of mitigation? Training. How many of us have thought of training as a mitigation thing? What are you mitigating? In training, you are reducing the probability of that risk of getting a poor quality because the people are not qualified. By training people in advance, some cost you are bearing. You are spending, say, $1,000 in training a person, but if this person is going to be trained, they can actually work on a $10,000 or even a $100,000 activity. If you don't spend this $1,000 in training, there is a risk that this person will create a defective product or will not be able to take the activity at all. So this is basically mitigating the risk. Training a person, so training a person is basically a way how you are reducing the probability in the future that there is a risk of unqualified people working and affecting the outcome of the project. I am very sure some of us would not have seen training as a mitigation, risk mitigation thing. Now equivalently on the opposite side, in positive, you have something called enhance. Enhance basically is increasing the probability or impact of the risk. So for example, incentives. When you talk of incentives, for one example, say you are discussing with your team that there is the opportunity of finishing the activities earlier if you can come on one Saturday, Sunday early, and stay a little late on a weekend. So you're incentivizing, right? How are you incentivizing? You know what, guys, if you come on a Saturday or Sunday, I will give you a compensatory off, and maybe we will also give some incentives. We'll go on a team outing. The week after, once you have finished this work, we'll on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, we'll go on a team outing. We'll go for lunch and we can go for a movie together, or for some group activities. We can do that. You are incentivizing. So you are increasing the probability that people agree to come on the weekend and work. So you're increasing the probability that the work will be finished a little earlier by incentivizing. So this is enhancing technique. Another example of enhancing. Imagine some of us are in the share market, finance market. There is a concept of hedging. You are hedging your bets. For example, you are predicting the price of a component or a commodity may increase or decrease, and you are betting for or against it. So this is called hedging. So hedging is a type of enhancing or increasing the probability of you succeeding. Another thing, imagine the same thing, you are running your 2-year project. In 6 months from now, you will start the testing activities for which you need some equipment. What is the chance? Sometimes the cost of that equipment may increase. So sometimes you buy it in advance. So you are increasing the probability you will save some costs on the project by buying an equipment in advance. Or the same example I gave earlier for avoiding. For example, you are pushing some work packages earlier so that some of the experts who may not be available today, their calendars show free and they can work. But what is the guarantee that will not change? Yes, the other managers are committed that they can lend you these people, but what if you can't borrow them simply because project situations may change? If you do have the opportunity to push some work package earlier, you are increasing the probability of delivering this work package using these experts. Otherwise, you have to run behind them. You have to do some other plans. So basically, you are increasing the probability of your project getting over little earlier, or your critical work package getting finished earlier by engaging the experts also earlier. So these are some examples of both positive and negative side risk response strategies. And then there is something called accept, which is common strategy for negative and positive. And one really wrong understanding that people have about accepting is accept means do nothing. Sorry folks, accepting does not mean do nothing. Accepting also, you do something. You only accept that as of today there is nothing concrete that you can do towards mitigating or towards sharing or towards avoiding this, or there is nothing concrete you can do towards exploiting or sharing or enhancing the opportunity. That's the meaning of accepting. There are two kinds of accepting. One is passive accepting, another is active accepting. Passive accepting and active accepting both have the same initial strategy, which is documenting. So accepting a positive or negative risk still means you have to document the risk. You have to add it to the risk register. But against this risk in the risk register, you state currently no actionable response. In passive accepting, you just stop here. In active accepting, you also put some actions which are not directly addressing this risk, but a sort of a to-do list for you, that after some timeline you will trigger some actions. So technically this accepting kind of risks you will not even put in the main risk register, you will put something in something called a watch list. Can someone tell me what a watch list is as against risk register?
It's a least priority risk, maybe.
Yeah, least priority or least urgent risks. The watch list is also another list in which the risks will not be addressed unless some trigger happens. Then you will move those from the watch list to the main risk register. One example, it's a very gender sensitive example, but it's easy for us all to understand. I give this example generally and people understand it easier. Imagine one of your team members, one lady, she comes to you and says she is going to go on maternity leave. This is the 3rd month of her pregnancy. So we usually how you plan it, ladies usually go on maternity leave from the 7th month, 8th month onwards, and then for a period of 6 months to 1 year, depending on both the legal and also the personal provisions available. Now whatever policies are there, so you will straight away start planning a replacement. You will request her to stop working on the main activities. Instead, can you please groom someone to be a replacement and work along with that person. Good. But you can put this in the main risk register. Person X, Miss X or Mrs. X basically will be going on a long leave. Personal medical reasons you need not mention in the main risk register. You can just put is expected to go on a long leave for personal reasons from this date for this duration. So we need to, that will affect activities that she is involved with, because she is the critical expert in the team. So you need to find a replacement. This is the risk statement you are entering the risk register. But sometimes you will not give too much attention to it until the 6th or 7th month comes, right? So technically that risk will not be in a risk register but rather in a watch list with some triggers. What is a trigger? Suddenly in the 4th month, 1 month after speaking to you, she starts taking quite a lot of medical leaves. That's a trigger. Now you see, maybe she will go on a leave little earlier than the 7th month. So you move it from your watch list into your main risk register a little earlier. These are the triggers. Or one of your team members starts taking lots of leaves and you hear from other team members, hey, actually maybe he's looking for a job, he's going for interviews, job interviews. So already you actually you put in a watch list. There's a chance person X will resign because they are not happy, he or she is not happy with the incentives, with on-site opportunities, with challenging tasks. But you're not going to show it to the management, you're going to put it in the watch list. But imagine a trigger, lots of leaves, you know that he's seriously looking for another job. That's a trigger, you will move to the main risk register. So these are some ways how you can actively or passively accept risks. And in PMBOK 6 you got one additional thing, which is escalate. In PMBOK 6, PMI has accepted project manager, though we tend to believe that we are gods, we are not all powerful. There are some risks which cannot be addressed at our level and it has to be moved higher up to the management. Maybe it will have a big cost impact, or it may need special negotiations with the customer which you as a project manager will not have the authority to do. Sometimes it's good to escalate to your higher ups, to your management or to your department head or to your manager. They will take care of it. So escalation is not bad. There are good escalations. In fact, timely and good escalations, proper escalations are seen as a strength of a project manager. They are not seen as weaknesses. And in escalation, communication is very important. How early you escalate, how well you articulate your escalation, how proactively you are doing it, how effectively you are giving alternatives. You are not just going to go to your management and say, sorry, my job is done, PMBOK 6 says escalation is good, I am escalating. No, you are going to clearly articulate what the problem is, what steps have you taken so far, why they have not been effective, what are different alternatives available, and why it cannot be done at your level, why it needs management support, and what the management could do, and by what time they have to take a step so that the risk response is effective. All these things together make up what you call as escalate. So these are the different kinds of risk responses you do. Sometimes you also have to address secondary risk. You know what a secondary risk, right? Can someone tell me what a secondary risk is? Anyone?
So, which appears during the risk analysis. I mean, already known risk is there, and then we can see some more is coming in between.
Yeah, basically, you are trying to mitigate one risk. You take some steps that creates
One more has been notified.
yes, that creates another risk. So to address one risk, you do some actions which creates another risk. It's like vaccination. I will, so that you don't forget this thing, I will show you one picture here. Can you see the baby picture
Bhuvan,
here?
is it residual?
Sorry?
Is it residual risk?
It's another kind of risk. Secondary risk
Oh,
is you want to mitigate a risk, you do some activities, and that creates another risk. That is a residual risk. It's like vaccination. A baby, vaccination, all of us agree it's important to prevent future illnesses in the baby. But what happens? Always a baby develops a slight fever immediately afterwards, right? But are we going to stop doing this vaccination? No, because we are trying to address a big risk. By taking activity, doing this vaccination, the baby will develop some small fever that shows the vaccination is working. So sometimes secondary risks are important. Residual risk is, despite your best measures, you have not eliminated the risk completely. Rather, some part of the risk is still there. 100% is not eliminated. I will give you a couple of examples. It's a very rainy day. 9 o'clock is your meeting. You usually start from home at 8:30. But that day, because it's raining, you decide two things. You will start at 8:15, 15 minutes earlier, and you'll take a trip through your residential area. And instead of 15 minutes you take to reach to work, you will take half an hour. So you start at 8:15, you go to the alternate route. You still reach not by 8:45, you reach by 9 o'clock or 9:05. You are still late for the meeting, but imagine you've eliminated the big risk that you'll reach at 10 o'clock. Instead of reaching at 10 o'clock when the meeting is over, you still reach dot on time like 9 o'clock or 8:55. You're not completely eliminated the risk, but to a good extent you have reduced. That residual risk is still, for example, the new route that you are taking will also be waterclogged, though not as badly as your main route. There may be new disruptions, yes, but still at the end of the day you will reduce the impact of the risk heavily, or the probability of risk heavily. So that remaining risk is called a residual risk. Alternatively, for a secondary risk, you decide, it's very cloudy, instead of going in a two-wheeler, I will go with a car, so that if it rains, for me it is okay. You take a car, but because it's raining, the roads are clogged. The same roads you could have wound your way through with a two-wheeler, right, easily through and through. You cannot do that because you are having a bigger vehicle. So you try to address the risk of rainy thing by not getting I don't want to get drenched, so you went with a car. It has created a secondary risk. Because you are going with a car, you cannot navigate your way through narrow lanes, so it's a secondary risk. You are still delayed. It's a new risk that you have created. So this is what a secondary risk is. So these are the different kinds of risk response strategies for different situations. Of course, what you do depends whether it's a negative or a positive risk. What is your risk threshold? Risk threshold is, my project can accept up to 3 weeks of delay. So I will start panicking when the delay has crossed 2 weeks. That's my threshold. I will not get a heart attack unless I get more than 1 month of delay or $10,000 of impact. So these are risk thresholds. So depending on your risk appetite, an organization wants to take a risk generally, or is very risk averse. They don't want to take a risk. Depending on the risk appetite, risk threshold, risk affinity, all these things, you will take a decision what risk response you can do for which particular situation. So that's, friends, is in a nutshell what risk response strategies are. Now the floor is open to questions, so you can ask me any questions on this topic, or we can have a discussion. I will go to that slide basically, sorry. Yeah, any questions? Good. Or any thoughts?
So one query regarding avoid and mitigate.
Mm-hmm.
So if you see both, we are trying to eliminate or reduce. So it means more or less same.
Similar.
And then in what way, yeah, more or less similar. In what way we can fit it right during the any tips? I mean, anything where we can able to identify which is risk or which is which is mitigate, where to avoid.
Simple. In avoiding, you are
Because
eliminating the cause. There's a difference between addressing the cause and addressing the probability or impact. For example, I will give you one example where both situations are possible, but how you can take a choice. Imagine you have a team member who is basically always creating negative vibrations in the team. He is the cause of negative vibrations. Many of your team members have complained. You have taken all the activities, all the measures that you need to do this, and it's not working. One way to avoid this is eliminating the cause. You simply move that person out of the team. You discuss with the management and you say, this person, sorry boss, you are out of the project. We can't bear. You go, you be put on the bench, or you work for another project, or you resign. We can't, because you have tried everything. That's avoiding. Mitigating is, for example, imagine if this person creating negative vibration is a very senior team member. You cannot afford to, and probably that is the reason why he is doing it. He knows that he is so critical to the project, he can get away with whatever he can. In that situation, he may be right. You cannot eliminate the cause, you cannot remove him from the project. How you can avoid, or how you can mitigate? You can basically have some buffers. For example, he always, whenever someone goes to that person for help, right, he badmouths them. He basically intentionally delays giving answers. Sometimes he gives intentionally false answers. He does not give answers immediately. He does not respond to mails. Instead of removing him, you basically can have an alternate route. That person will still be in the team. You are not avoiding or eliminating the cause. You are not removing him. You can basically create an alternate route. What, for example, if you get answer from that person, you can finish the work in 5 days. If you don't get an answer, you can do it in 8 days. Increase the buffers. Add some buffers. Or, for example, create alternate paths where team members can get answers. Maybe from experts outside the team. I know it's a very bad situation, but you have to live with it sometimes. So in this way you are mitigating, reducing the probability team members have to even interact with this person, or reduce the probability that answers have to come from this person, or reduce the impact if the answer does not come from anyone. So this is mitigation. Understood the difference?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, thank you, Bhavan.
Yeah. So any other examples you want to share, guys? You can also please. So you can share from your real life, from your life, personal life, or from your projects. Or your experience. Any questions? I'm trying to record this session. Hopefully the recording is good and I can post this. It will be a 1 hour session. If somebody is interested, they can also watch this again, or you can refer this to your friends who were not able to join this session. I'm not sure if all of you are on the WhatsApp group where I basically share some, because we have a WhatsApp group especially for sharing this information, and some of you are, I'm seeing from the WhatsApp group, some of you are from other groups like PM West Bengal chapter, or from Bosch groups and everything. So my request is, if you wish to get updates, you can also join this, and there will be no spams or forwards on this group, no solicitations. There will be only information on these sessions. So please feel free to join the WhatsApp group so you can get this information for this. So if you're not part of the group, please ping me. You have my WhatsApp number because you've seen it on some group or the other. Ping me. I will share with you the invitation to the WhatsApp group so you can join. So this group is basically called PMP Refresher Sessions group. So you can join it. So any questions, guys? Still we have some time. And
yeah, Sundar, I always confuse between issue log and risk register while differentiating. Can you just different issue log and risk register?
Very simple. Beautiful question. Everyone gets confused. See, risk register is the formal document where you register the risk, and along with the risk, you have the risk statement, you have the prioritization of the risk, you have the probability impact values, you have potential, quantitative information impact of this risk, you have the you have the potential risk response strategies, who will take what time, and all these things together, and that you will present to the management, and which you will regularly revisit and revise the whole thing. That's your risk register. Issue log is something that you maintain everywhere for all. It is more like a lessons learned during the course of the project. During the course of the project, you did something, and for example, your SPI is very low, it's 0.5, and that is probably because the inputs from one phase to another phase the output from one phase going as input to another phase, you are not able to basically manage it. So you have written down some action for you. There's an issue in flow of information from one module to another module. You have to address this, or it could be personal issues. Some of these issues you will also register in the risk register. There will be commonalities between the issue log and risk register, but issue log is more of a daily scrapbook, you can imagine, where you list all the issues. But risk register, so risk register is something where you do go to the complete formal risk management process. Issue log, you don't do that basically. And if you see, issue log is an input or an output to lots of processes all across
Yeah.
but risk register not always. So risk register continues are more formal. Issue log as your daily scrapbook, but issue log is also formal, by the way. Issue log also will be shared with team members as and when needed. Issue log is more as a administrative task where you list and you discuss it regularly, you update. Risk register usually is not updated so often. Some new issue appears. For example, your team members have some issue, personal conflict, personality conflict or some things, you load. You will not write that in the risk register. And always the definition is like that. Risk is something that is yet to happen. Issue is a risk that has already happened. That's a good definition. But not always you have both in both.
Okay, clear. Thank you.
Bhuvan, just one question.
Yeah.
When for daily the meetings that we have with the project team, right? It's generally we have discussions on the risk, right? So that will be ideally from the issue log in that case.
It's wrongly understood that is usually in the risk register. You have the risk register with you for your daily stand-up meetings and everything. What you ideally will have or should have is the issue log.
Okay, fine. Yeah, I think that's fine.
Risk register, you can take some items in the risk register as to-do list and put them in the issue log, or things that have already happened. Things that are yet to happen, you may have in the issue log, but generally things that have already happened, actions, mitigation actions that you are listing the risk, that you can put already. For example, I'll tell you just to give a more clarity. Imagine the case of the maternity leave I told you about. In the risk register, you would put it, for example, person X is going to go on a maternity leave from the 16th of August. Now it is still 4 months down the line. But in the issue, you will say, for example, knowledge transfer from this lady to the chosen, chosen replacement is not on track. Either because the person who has to receive the knowledge is busy with some other tasks. You will not write it in the risk register, you will write it in the issue log. This one example. Risk register, you will write the bigger ones. Small things, for example, to do less issues. We have a plan, the knowledge transfer timetable. Sorry, it's not going on track. Nearly 1 week of delay we have in the knowledge transfer that has to happen between them. That's an issue. You have to address this concretely. I have to take some steps. I have to speak to people. So this is basically one difference. Is this clear?
Yes, Bhuvan, thanks.
Welcome. Yeah.
Bhuvan, whether before closing the project, do we need to means clear all the risk register funds? What are the risks we put in the risk register?
Not necessarily. I'll tell you, there is the art of retiring risks also. Sometimes a risk, even without doing anything, it will disappear. You may have beautiful planning for it, but you don't have to execute that. So that is why revisiting the risks regularly, proactively, without being asked by someone, that is very important. And when you are doing it proactively, some risks you will retire. You will simply close them on the risk register itself. And then regularly you are revisiting, either periodically or event trigger based in management reviews and everything. So when you are revisiting that, some risks may still remain without impacting. So one thing what you will do as part of the closure activities is, one final visit you will do of the risk register. You will close them because your project is over. The project documentations are being consolidated as part of the lessons learned. You will close this risk, but you will basically make a lessons learned. This risk never transpired. So the next projects, when they look into this risk register, please take this into account, but probably the nature of the two projects are similar. Don't give too much importance. You deprioritize this risk. Some note, something like that you will also mention. Ideally, at the end of a project, you are expected to document wise close all the risks. Ideally. It's just an administrative procedure. Is this clear?
Yes, prof.
Yeah.
One more query. I think it is general, not only for risk register, even for any other. Suppose if we do some activity and we found some issue, then whether first we have to update the document and communicate to stakeholder, or we need to first communicate to stakeholder, then update document, which comes priority, which is the first priority like that.
In integration management, you have something called integrated change control. You heard of that, right? So the anatomy of change, life cycle of change. Similar, you have to follow.
Yeah.
So what is the life cycle of a change? Whenever there's a new situation happening, a new change request, internal or external, doesn't matter. Change request comes. How do you handle it? You don't go and directly create a change request. That's what we do in real life. But ideally, according to PMBOK, you should not do that. First thing is, you have to visit your project management plan, your Bible. That's what you created, and you will see how changes or this new risk information, whatever you get, how this has to be handled. Then you will make sure the baseline is already there. Baseline is the last approved version of scope, schedule, cost, or anything. Then you will do an analysis, an impact analysis. What impact does this requested change have on different parameters like scope, schedule, cost? With this impact analysis, you will go to a CCB, change control board, and they will accept, reject, or modify it and everything. Finally, the change request is sort of accepted, you can implement. Then you will go copy the baseline, you will work on that, and then after the work is finished, you will update the new baseline, means the new approved version. So this is the entire cycle of change control. Something similar you will do it also as a risk. Of course, you will not do it consciously every time, every small request that comes, every small risk information that comes and everything, you will not do it. But at least keep this at the back of your mind. At least a minimal version of this you must do. So you're not talking about the customer is giving you a risk. Again, the customer is informed you of a risk, or what was the situation now?
No. It is not customer risk. We found during our analysis or whatever.
Ideally, you must keep updating. So if this risk has an impact on the project that will create a change request, you follow change control process. But at the least, in your risk register, you will update it. You don't need anyone's approval or permission. In fact, risk, I said, is a culture. Like safety and quality is a culture, and exactly like safety and quality, it's also the responsibility of every person in the team, not only the manager or the leader. So if you have an ideal, very good work culture in the team where people don't hesitate talking about risks, you will get more risks that can be registered. You must enter them in the risk register, but after entering them in the risk register, you must subject it to a detailed discussion and decide whether you want to continue with that in the risk register or just remove it, or just put it in the watch list, or just an issue that can be addressed here and there. So make sure a risk register weighs heavily on quality, not on quantity. That's the message. This answer?
Okay. Yeah. So that means ideally, anything we have to update in the document or register, then communicate to stakeholders.
There is
That's
no
what.
hard and fast rule. There is no hard and fast rule. In fact, your updating the risk register itself is a communication, because the risk register is available to everyone. Sometimes internal information you will not leak to the customer, right? And vice versa. So sometimes you will have a different risk register for the customer. See, there is nothing called different registers. The risk register is common, it's personal to you as the project manager. The extract of that risk register is what differs from meeting to meeting. You will have one risk register that you will maintain for your project. You need not show every item in that risk register to the entire world. Some of the risks you will never even show to anyone else other than you. And at the end of the project, when you are sharing the entire risk register, you will even remove this and then only do lessons learned. Example, you are talking about some person, you have an ego clash with another person, you will write it in your risk register. I have an ego clash with this person, he always refuses to give me information. Sad thing is, I cannot even escalate to my manager because he is the pet of my manager. But you are writing in your risk register, you should. So this is a tip, you must. Why? Because risk register is your go-to document. If it's going to help you plan, so whenever you need some input from the person, you will work in a different way. How will you even know that you have to take care of this if you don't write it down anywhere? So risk register is only one. But which risks you show to whom, at what meeting, in what phase of the project changes. You need not show the risk register to other people. You will only show the report. and extract few risks alone. That too, you will not show all the details of the risks. You will show the risk, high level actions, who will take the actions, who is responsible, by what time should the action be taken, and before taking what is the risk, after taking how will the risk priority number reduce, probability multiplied by impact, how will it reduce. That's all. More you don't have to show. This will clarify also the question on what I should write in my risk register, what not. Is this better? Now you are able to understand it better?
Yeah, Bhavan.
Yeah. So, any other questions? Maybe another 5 minutes max and then we can close this. Is okay?
Yeah, can you talk about risk report and risk register?
Yeah, risk report, just like work performance report, right? Risk report is basically an extract. Your risk register, you will have all the information. You will have the P value, I value, RPN value. You will have the mitigation, the response, the time, the person responsible, the priority, everything, so much. But in a risk report, you need not show all these things. A report always is with a purpose, with a target. For different targets, different purposes, different forums, you will present different reports. So risk report is an extract of selected risks, maybe only the highest priority risks, or only the risks that need support from the stakeholders in that particular meeting, and that too not all the details for those risks also. Few activities alone, you will not show all the RPN, how it was, mitigation action, blah blah blah. Why should the customer even bother who is sorting the risk in your project? You will only show to the customer cost wise there's a chance that I may skip for the next quarter, I may spend maybe 10% more or 20% more than planned, which may not be compensated, so we need to pump in some more budget. That's all. You need not show all the steps you are taking. You are hiring, you are outsourcing at a cheaper rate, so the customer did not know everything. So that will be a risk report. Is it clear what a risk report is?
Yes, yes.
You have WPD, work performance data, work performance information, work performance reporting. Raw data is work performance data. You convert it to SPA, CPA, whatever information that will trigger into action. But work performance report, you extract the key metrics and you present only to the right stakeholders in the right meeting at the right time, not everything to everyone. That's the WPR. So report is exactly that.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
It's clear.
So, any other questions or any non-risk related questions also you can have. Anything in PMP, because how we will do the sessions, as I said, is we will have a free show. In fact, in some weeks we will not have any selected topic at all. It's a free open floor to anyone to ask any question on entire PMP, entire 1 hour. We will do such sessions also. But one thing is, as I said, I already saw some of you had sent request. If you want to get regular updates on these sessions, 2 things. Please WhatsApp me or Telegram me if you have my Telegram details, about adding you to that WhatsApp group. I will add you to the group, so regularly I will share information on these sessions. Second thing, please subscribe to this YouTube channel called PMVRTTA, where I post not only these recordings but also I post crisp videos. As I said, earn value management and schedule with network diagram, they're all 1.5 hour sessions, but I've posted half an hour crisp videos for you to refer. So those things you can. One quick thing is, just a moment, I will post. If you have any other questions, please feel free to ask in the meanwhile. So what I am doing is I am posting on the chat window the link to the YouTube channel I have just posted. So you can say maybe subscribe to the channel so you get regular notifications whenever a new video is uploaded, not only of the sessions but other videos. And please also share this widely with everyone, this information that these sessions are happening and the channel exists, so that more people can get benefited. And please be in touch with me also through WhatsApp or wherever to suggest topics, because funny thing, today I was really confused and suddenly I think Maria, right, contacted me about the topic. Was it you?
Yes, Bhuvan. Yeah,
About
yeah,
the
it
risk
was me.
responses. So
Yes,
thank you
yes,
very much,
yes.
because suddenly she said, hey, why don't you talk about risk? I said, why not? So like this, please suggest topics that we can discuss in these sessions, either by commenting on the YouTube videos, or even better on the WhatsApp group. You join the WhatsApp group and suggest topics. So this way we can keep learning, because you know what, you attended surely whatever chapter you are part of, Kerala, West Bengal, Chennai, or whatever chapter, you would have attended some sort of training, and you will be intensely preparing to write the exam in the next 4 months before the exam pattern changes. But always there will be topics that you're really confused. You thought you understood in the training, but now you come out of the training, you say, oops, I really don't understand, can someone explain to me? So such topics you let me know, and we can actually discuss in these sessions. So fine, any last questions before we close this session? Okay, so guys, so if there are no more questions, I thank you again for joining on a Sunday. Please be in touch again through these modes I just mentioned, and share this information widely, both the videos and also this information on the group. Join us, and we will do every week these sessions. I really appreciate you, and also I'm thankful that it's also motivation for me actually to share whatever knowledge I have, instead of limiting it to only myself. So thank you very much again. I wish you all the best for your PMP examinations, and happy learning. So thank you very much, guys. You can close this session if it's okay. Yeah.
Thank you, Sundar. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Mohan. Bye bye.
Thanks everyone, guys.
Bye bye.
Take care.
Bye bye.
Bye.